right. Well, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to the stream. So what are we going to do today? Well, first of all, how's everyone doing in the chat? Hopefully everyone's good. It's like I said, it's Friday, so it's almost the weekend, so that's good news. We can all have a couple of days off. But for today's stream, what I figured we might do is we might have a look at another UI challenge and give that a bit of a go and see what we're going to do. President Not Sure says we're going to code lots with Mr. Kim Philpotts. Absolutely. So that's let me see if this will work. So that's the jingle. Let me see if this will play.
Today we're gonna code lots.
No, it's not going to play. Hang on a second. Let me get that jingle. I'm going to put it onto my Stream Deck. So I got this fancy little device called a Stream Deck, which I use for samples and things like that. Anyway, let's see what we get here. Let's see if this works.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Philpotts, and oh how amazing you'll be.
That's a jingle courtesy of Glenn Stevens. It's a catchy jingle, that one. And Iriel. Oh, it's George. You taught me several courses at XAMU. Fantastic. Welcome. So hope you enjoyed that. Hope you're enjoying the content over at Microsoft Learn as well, which is where we've got it. So thanks for joining us. Okay, let's get straight into it, I suppose. So over here on my screen, we've got the UI that we're gonna sort of try and reproduce today. What I really want to focus on is animations in Xamarin.Forms. So let's go and have a look at this, what's happening here and what this is. So this is a little design from Dribble. So I'll just throw out a few URLs here. Let me just come back here. So it's a design by, let's have a look here. Let's have a look at this design here. And I'll throw this into the chat window. So this is a design by Rick Waalders. It's kind of a nice little time application. Now, I work with a remote team, and so this is interesting for me because time zones are hard, and when you've got to meet with people in different time zones, it's always a bit of a challenge. You know, you don't want to always go to a website and things like that. So I thought for today's session, we'll reproduce some of this UI, sort of focusing on the animation side of things, just to play around with that. And then I'm probably going to build this out into a real application. Now, President Not Sure One says, will these videos make it to YouTube? They will. So let me just have a look here. YouTube, this could be dangerous, couldn't it? Somewhere here I've got this YouTube channel. And if we have a look at our channel, I'll be putting all of these into the Xamarin.Forms UI challenges playlist. Somewhere we're playing a video. So I'll throw those up into here. Let me copy that link. I think there's a link down below actually. So there's a bit.ly link over there to the YouTube. So yeah, I'll upload these. Absolutely. Cool. All right. So yeah, this is the and also in terms of code as well. I'm going to throw this up into GitHub. So I normally put all of these up onto GitHub. So if we have a look here, there's probably lots of private projects here, but so there's some Xamarin layout challenges that I've done before. We did art auction and day versus night. I sort of separated those out into different sections. And then this one here, I'm going to create one called Unzone, which is where I'm going to put this. And also on my blog as well. So I'm actually sort of blogging out some of these challenges as well. I see Ryan Roberts, Cubs lover. How you doing? So here's on my blog here. This is one of the ones that we did earlier on, and just sort of talk through these. So I'll do blogs on that as well. On the one that we do today, we'll just talk about the interesting bits. Ryan, you're still doing your study, trying to wrap your head around recursion. Yeah, recursion's recursion's a tough one. Make sure you don't disappear down a black hole, which can happen. All right, cool. So so the actual layout of its cells, a function that calls itself. Yeah, absolutely. Bit of recursion. It's actually super useful technique, actually. So something good to get your head around. But, it's one of those things you can get wrong and then just sort of lose, just sit in a loop, basically. Okay, so the actual layout of the cells here is pretty simple. It's just got a few elements inside of here. The bit that makes this interesting for me is the funky UI design of this bit here. So let me go and open this up in a new tab, and let's have a look at what this does. So the cool thing about this is it's got these animations. When somebody clicks on a cell, it sort of pops down these elements, okay, and then it does a flip around. And one of the nice things about Xamarin.Forms is it includes lots of animations, a lot of animation routines in here as well. So it's kind of, it probably shouldn't be too hard. We can do it, I suspect, with most of the inbuilt animations that are available from Xamarin.Forms. So as usual, what I'm going to do is just take the initial design and put it into something like Adobe XD so that I can get hold of it and see how it works. So I'm just going to copy this image, and that will be useful to get some colors and things from. So let me duck over to Adobe XD. We'll go ahead and we'll paste that in. How's that music? Is that music a bit loud? All right. It's in here. Like that. It's okay? Fantastic. I never know. I turned it down a little bit there, President Not Sure. So hopefully it's not too loud anymore. All right, cool. So what we can do from here is we can start grabbing a few colors and things like that. So I might do that. I might create myself some boxes here and then go ahead and steal some colors. So we've got this sort of dark blue here. Got a lighter blue down the bottom here, so the background color gives a good atmosphere. Good morning. Good morning, Alexander from Europe. Wonderful. Thanks for joining us. In case you're not sure what we're working on, we're just going and sort of creating this UI. It's not really the UI that I'm that focused in on today. It's more about the animations that I'm interested in. Okay, so we got some colors there. Maybe we'll grab this color up here as well. So let's call this one. Let's give this a name, shall we? Well, actually, what we'll do is we'll say let's go and add that color to assets at each of these colors. Okay. What I might also do, because they've Alexander been doing a great job for the community. Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it. I try my best. I do it out of love. I do love a bit of Xamarin. All right, now let's, what I'm going to do is I'm going to capture this when it's popped down. All right, so the interesting thing is, these animations that happen. So I'll see if I can grab this at the right time. Let's grab that. Take it back over to Adobe XD, and we'll just sort of create a new artboard. and we'll plonk it in there. I hope you don't mind me doing this Adobe XD stuff. Because, I mean, I could get all this stuff before the stream, but I figure it's kind of interesting as well for people to learn about some design tools as well. So let me know how you feel about that. All right, let's grab a couple of more colors because there's a few more in here as well. So there's kind of like 3 colors. They're just very slightly different. So for this one, we'll grab that color, grab this color over here. They're just slightly different, ever so slightly. You're glad, President Not Sure? Beautiful. Yeah, I think it's a useful technique. And then, you know what? I suspect this color here is the same as this color. We can fine tune that anyway. So there's a bunch of colors that we have, and I've added those. Let me see. So I've added that into the assets, right? So the idea of what you can do with Adobe XD is if you do things like add colors into assets, then you can, actually, if you have a design element, for example, that was here, and you said, hey, I want to grab a color and put this color in here. If later on I come here and I edit this color, change it to something else, then it's actually updating this element. So it's a super useful way. It's like setting up styles essentially. Okay, anyway, we won't change that color. We'll change it back to what it was. Yeah, Ariel, not sure if I'm saying that right. Adobe XD, yeah, it's free. It's very un-Adobe to have a free product, but it is free, and it's really cool as well because one of the nice things it allows you to do is actually do things like storyboarding, right? So if I prototyping. So I could say, hey, this is my home screen. I don't remember how to do that. Here we are. I say set this as my home screen. If I wanted to do something like when I tap on this, I navigate to another screen, right? You can actually do that transition, and then you can play that out. So you can when I click on that, I go to that screen, right? So not very interesting in this case, but if you're building out a design and you want to walk it through with a customer, that's super useful. I haven't used Figma, but I kind of hear good things about it. Yeah. All right, now here's something that I did. I created an exporter for this. So what I can do is I can say, if I give these some names, I'll say this is navigation bar color. Say this top one here was my cell background. I'll call this cell background color. Call this one my drop down color 1. Call this drop down color 2, something like that. All right, so if I've got those, then what I've got is I created myself a plugin which just does a Xamarin.Forms export, and so it basically gets those colors. It'll also do character styles as well. Oh, color 3. There we are. I haven't given one a color. So that's this one here. What was that one? What that one was for. So that's the cell background color. That's the drop down. Oh, actually, you know what this one is? This one here, I think, is this one here, right? I've got 2 assigned to the same one. This one here is actually the like the page background color. And this one should not be that one. This one should be this one. This one would be, hold on, let me check this. Drop down color 1 is going to be this color. They're all such similar colors. I'm not sure how well this design would work for people who have, you know, perhaps colorblind. I don't know. Okay, let's go with those anyway. We can always adjust them later on. Okay, and then we'll jump over to Visual Studio, and we'll go and create some elements. Hey, create ourselves a UI. Let's new up a Xamarin.Forms project as we would. New Xamarin.Forms app. Let's call this. What do I call this? Unzone. Stick this under my folder, which I never know what it is. Actually created the repo already, so let's put it under there. Call it Unzone. Sure. Just a blank application to start with. We'll create a UWP one just for giggles. Now, one of the extensions that I do like to use is Live XAML. So I'm going to manage that NuGet package. I'm going to include Live XAML into here. Sort of my go-to live previewer, essentially. What I like most about it, even though it's a paid component, it works pretty well. It doesn't do code preview. Like if you change code, it doesn't do a live preview of the code, but it does of XAML. And I spend a lot of time doing my XAML UIs. And the other good thing about it is you just add a NuGet package in, just like so. And then if I add that in, install it, now when I run it, I'll be able to change my XAML. Is there an update? Probably Xamarin.Forms, I'm guessing. UWP. Let's not worry about that for the moment. All right. So we're going to have our application here. Here we go. Our main page. Let's do this. Let's pump that font up a little bit. Let's first talk about how we're going to do those sort of flyouts before we get into too much code. Just to give that idea. So what have I got set to deploy? I got the UWP set to deploy here. That's fine. I just want to show you some of the, pretty much there's a property, which is our translations and our rotations, which are super useful for doing what we're trying to do here. Let me just rearrange the screen a little bit. There, our UWP application over here. Alrighty, cool. So let's have a look here. So we got our label. Let's just check our live updates working. Yep, that's working. Cool. So let's say for this layout. Right, what we're probably going to want is we're going to probably want an absolute layout to go around the whole thing, because we're going to have to focus in on the exact positioning of things. But let's try this. Let's say instead, let's just create a grid first. I just want to actually let's just create a box view, and we'll just make this orange. We'll stick it in the middle of the screen. So we'll vertically center it. We'll horizontally center it. We'll give it a width request of 100 and a height request of 100. So we should have a box in the middle of our screen. All right, cool. So we got a box in the middle of the screen. So good morning, Glenn Stevens. You missed it earlier on, but President Not Sure was singing your jingle. How about that? Very cool. All right, so we've got some properties that we can play around with, right? So we've got like, oh, it's my jingle. I should pay for it, shouldn't I? So we've got things like rotation, right? So we can rotate things around. So that's all very cool. Alexander, I'm sorry for interrupting you. No problems at all. But I need to ask you if it's possible to change your Friday schedule sometimes and prepare the weekly Xamarin newsletter in the morning and do the Twitch recording in the afternoon. Okay, is that because you need the newsletter quicker? Or because you want the Twitch stream later? But yeah, I can change around my schedule. I normally have to like drop off kids and things like that at school, so that's a bit of a consideration. Yeah, so let me know, Alexander. Is it about getting the newsletter quicker? Because I can certainly send it out first thing on a Friday morning. Okay, so the thing is for people in Europe, it's late night at the moment and it's very hard to follow. Okay, so I see what you're saying. So if we go and have a look at, I don't know, let's, what time is it in, I want to say Europe, but I know that, where are you, Alexander? Let's just say, what time is it in Berlin? Oops, I can't spell Berlin. Yeah, okay, that's a pretty crazy time. Yeah, look, what I normally would have is I'd have a stream this time on a Friday. I want to start instigating bringing back a Wednesday evening one as well. But yeah, I can have a think about that for sure. I just have to make sure that I can commit to a scheduled time. But cool feedback. Thanks, Alexander. So what's this weekly Xamarin newsletter all about? Let me show you. So this is one of the things that I do for love, not for profit. So there's the weekly Xamarin newsletter. So I basically put one of these out every Friday, Australian time, and just go through all of the news for Xamarin for the week. So it's actually, I don't know, I like it. So just go along to the weekly Xamarin and throw in your email there, hit subscribe, and don't worry, it's all safe. We don't share any email addresses or anything like that. I don't do any spam. This is just purely just a newsletter because I love the Xamarin community. Fantastic. And here are all your subscribe. Beautiful. All right, let's come back over here. Let's have a look at some of these properties. So we've got rotation of 100 there. So that's, rotating my thing over here. We don't really need rotations for what we're doing. What we want to do is we want to have a look at, well, actually, we do want to have a look at rotation. There's different rotations, right? So that was just a normal rotation. We've got a rotate X. Well, let's set our rotation X to 0 here. Let's make that 100, right? So what that's doing is it's making it flip. Maybe it'd be easier if I saw it at 45, right? So that's sort of flipping it backwards like that, which is kind of what we're after, right? So we want to start it off with like those drop downs that we have. If we go and have a look at wherever those were. Okay. We want to drop something down and we want to get it to animate in. So in order to do that, where did my WP window go? We kind of want to start at probably like -90, which is flat. And then we want to bring it down to, let's see if this is the right way. Yep, -45. And then eventually bring it down to 0. Okay, so that so that's how that works. Now there is also a rotation Z as well. Right, so rotation Z is not found. All right, cool. Not a rotation Z? Oh no, there's a rotation Y. Okay. Let's have a look at what rotation Y does. So rotation Y of 45, okay, flips us around this way. So what we're after is we're after a rotation X, right? Okay. Now the challenge here is, if you have a look at what this is doing, it's actually rotating around that axis there. Okay? We don't want that. We want it to actually fall down. So sort of just flap its way down essentially. So what you can do is you can set its anchor property. Is it anchor? It's anchor. Yeah. So anchor X and anchor Y sets the center point for the animation, if you like. So if I say the anchor X, right, of 0.5, that would mean we're on this point here. We're halfway. And what we want to do is we want to make an anchor Y at the top. Right? So if we set that, you watch what this will do. Anchor Y equals 0. Right? Go to 0. That's right, anchor 0. And then let's do a rotation X of 30. Okay. So now what it's doing is it's basically keeping a consistent width there, right? And in this case, it's kind of like, swung back around this way, right? So it's basically keeping that consistent, because what we're saying is the anchor point for our rotations is right there at 0, halfway. So that's kind of what we're after. And that's how we're going to achieve this, because one of the nice things that Xamarin.Forms has is the ability to rotate to and do that over an animation. So effectively, we're going to say rotate from -90 to 0. Okay, and that's what's going to make it drop in, basically. All right, cool. So that's a little bit of a background of how we're going to achieve what we're after. Well, that's one part of it. Now, the other part of this particular challenge is we're going to, when somebody clicks on a cell, let's watch that, click on that cell, we're going to have the whole background sort of go dark. Right, so the easiest way to achieve that sort of stuff, and we've done this before in streams, is actually just lay something over top of it, like a box view over top of it with an opacity, and then we're good. But the actual cell itself, so this cell here, right, is not made transparent. So what I'll probably do is just create a copy of the cell that we click on, and then actually put that over top of the background that we're going to put in there. So that's the idea. I hope that kind of makes sense. And then what we'll do is we'll drop down those those two things down here. All right, that's the idea. And I'll just hack this together to start with, just to get the basics working, and then we can improve it, and perhaps find ways of even making it a reusable control. But that might be a bit too much for today's stream. All right, cool. So let's have a look at what we're going to do then. Probably the first thing is we're going to create ourselves a cell. In fact, what I might do, let's do this. Let's just design it here on the screen. So, I'm going to go back over to Adobe XD. I'm going to capture those colors because I've played around with my clipboard. Just hit the copy button, come back over to window here. let's design what our pop down is going to actually look like. First of all, let's go and put those colors into our resource dictionary. So we've got some colors there. Now, first of all, we're going to have to be fairly specific, I think, with the positioning. And I normally do kind of everything in a grid, really. But in this case, an absolute layout is probably what we're going to require. Let's talk a little bit about those. So we have, absolute layout's just a layout container that allows you to absolutely position things. Is essentially what it does. But the cool thing about absolute layout is you can do things sort of relative and whatnot as well. So you can sort of say it's half the page width, or you can specify exact sort of pixel locations as well. So let's do this. Let's say let's create our background first of all. So to do this, we're going to want this to overlay our grid that we have in the background. Actually, maybe we'll create the cells first. Let's create the cells. Okay, so we'll create ourselves a grid. We're going to want to position this within our absolute layout. So the way we do that is through attach properties. So we can say, okay, here's our absolute layout. And so you got layout bounds and you got layout flags. So the layout bounds basically say, where's it laying out to? So I'll say it's going from the top 0, 0, and it's going to 1, 1, right? So it's going to occupy the full page in that regards. Okay. And there's also the absolute layout flags. And this is a little bit more complex, I suppose. And this sort of indicates whether we're giving ratios here. So here, these are ratios from 0 to 1, right? So 0 means, in this case, top left. 1 means the full width or the full height. But what we can also do is we can specify exact positioning as well. So that's kind of a nice thing that we can do. Let's have a look at that actually. So we'll put that in there. I'll give this a background color of orange. And we'll give this a moment. Let's give this a width request of 300. Height request of 300, right? So again, just sort of talking through the concepts here. Horizontal options, we'll center it. We will vertical options, center it as well. So I think this will give us an orange box or an orange grid in the middle of the screen. Cool. All right, so let's have a look at these absolute layout values then. All right, so if I said 0, 0, and then with my layout flags of all, I said, let's put this to 0.5, 0.5. Right. What that sort of says is it's sort of going up to the top there. Right. So 1, 1. If I do 1, 1, that should be. Well, in this case, I've got my bound set here, so I'm actually sort of positioning it, right? So I'm making it 1 by 1. Maybe what we'll do is let's do this. Let's get rid of these values here for the moment. So if I said 0.5, 0.5, okay, it's taking up half the width, half the height. Okay. If I went from 0.5, okay, now I'm centered around that 0.5 and I'm 0.5 wide. Okay. If I went and changed this to something else like layout bounds of say X proportional, right? Now I think what I could do is I could say 0, 1, and then I could throw in a value here. That work for me? I suck at these. Wait on. Let's try something. It's probably what we'll use. Width proportional. Let's try that. If I say width proportional, that's going to mean that your width value is going to be proportional. So it should be 1 wide, but the height is going to be an exact value. right? So that's basically saying I am the full width, because that's a 1, and I'm starting at 0 and I'm going to 100, right? If I wanted to move this down, I could say, hey, let's start it at 100 and make it 100 high, right? So absolute layouts are pretty cool. I don't use them nearly enough because I do find them a little bit confusing, to tell you the truth. But yeah, that's the general idea. All right. And what we're going to do is, because we're going to have this popover that we want to, when the cell pops over, right, we're going to want to create a cell exactly where the other one is. That's why we're using an absolute layout. All right, let's, now that we've talked about that, maybe what we'll do is we'll actually create some cells, okay, and get the basic layout going on. If you have any questions, by the way, just, feel free to comment in the chat window, or if you've got any good jokes, let me know as well. Right. So let's create ourselves a model first of all, I suppose, because we want a few different cells with different times in them. I like to use MVVM helpers, which is just which is James. Well, there's a few MVVM helpers, but James Montemagno has one. President, not sure layouts are real brain burners for you. Yeah, they can be tough. Like UI stuff, I think in general is actually pretty hard. It's finicky, you've got to make a whole bunch of little adjustments, and it's always not, sometimes it's not logical the way it works. You've got to just sort of play around with it and see what does work. So it's a lot of trial and error. Yeah. All right, let's use MVVM helpers. Yeah, look, I love MVVM, but I don't sort of use a lot of big frameworks. I just use sort of basic stuff. So what we're going to have is we're going to have a model in here, which is going to be the representation of a time for a user. So I'll create myself a class here, something like, I don't know, like a time info, something like that. I'm sure time info will be some crazy reserved word, knowing my luck. And maybe it should be like a time zone info, but we'll just put time info in there. Okay. So let's go and make this an observable object. Not on the namespace. That's not going to work, is it? MVVM helpers. And I think for this, we're just going to have a few properties. We're going to have a string, which is a username. We're going to have ourselves, actually we want to make these so that they're going to update. So convert it to a full property. Then we'll say on a get, we'll return username. On a set, we will use ourselves a set property, okay, from the helper. Set property, we need a ref to our username, and we need a value inside of there, something like that. So there's our username. Let's go ahead, let's go and create perhaps a location. Copy these, shouldn't I? I'm going to do that. I'm going to copy these. So we'll have a location. Well, there's an easier way to do this, but anyway. we got one. Okay, cool. What else do we want? We want to have a time zone. Right, so we'll have a time zone ID. That's just going to be a string. I'm probably going to use Noda time in order to do this. So we'll generate that field. Cool. And let's just put one more property in, which is going to be, let's just put the current time. Right. So we have a current time in there. Beautiful. Generate that field. Lovely. All right. So there's our object which represents it. We'll create this as a main view model as well. It really is Fridays. So let's say view models, and we'll just have a main view model. Okay. Fat fingering everything. Let's try that again. In view model. Okay, so again, we'll make this a what does James call them? Base view model. Sound about right? MVVM helpers. Sure. All right. So basically what we want out of our main view models is we want to have a list of these zones. I'm going to expose that as a property called as an iList. Of, what do we call those things? Time info. So we'll have that in there. All this, I don't know, all these locations perhaps. So one of those days. What am I doing with my life? I can't type. Using our models. Beautiful. And what we'll do is just in the constructor, let's go ahead and just create some random times, I suppose. So we'll say locations equals a new, and this is going to be an observable collection because presumably we're going to add things into here. So it's going to be an observable collection of time infos. That's about right. All right, and let's just add a few random things in here. So we'll say locations.add new location, new time info. Say username equals Kim. We'll have the current time, and I'll just put this in at the moment. We can add something in later on. What is the current time? It's 10:49. What else we got? We've got a location, which is Melbourne, Australia. We're going to have a time zone ID. I don't know what this is going to be at the moment because I don't know what the Noda time zones are, but let's just put something in here for the moment. So there we are. We've got that. Let's go and add in a few other ones. So let's have Frank. We'll have Helen. Anyone got a good name? Karen. Whatever. All right, we'll put that in there. We'll throw a few different times in just so we can see those represented. And we'll do something, James. That's a great idea. We could have Frank Kruger and we could have James. There we go. No idea what time it is for James. I'm guessing it's mid-afternoon, or maybe it's mid-morning, 30. I'm going to get rid of these because it's not a geography quiz. So let's say Melbourne, Frank's in Berlin, James is probably in Seattle, Helen, she's in where is she? Naming's hard. It doesn't matter. Where's a country I really like? Copenhagen. I really like Copenhagen. Copenhagen's nice. All right. I don't know. We'll do CST. We'll do maybe this is CST as well. I don't know. It doesn't matter. We're just putting data in here. 5:49 p.m. for James. And PST. I don't know. All right, cool. Wow, that was hard just to add a few locations in there. All right, so that's going to give us some data. Beautiful. So now what we should be able to do is we should be able to go ahead and create our main view model, and we'll just basically put that into our page at the moment. We'll refactor this out. You know, if I go ahead and I turn this into a real application, which is my intention, I'll actually refactor this out properly. At the moment, we're just doing a UI challenge. Okay, so we'll go into our main page and we'll basically just create that view model, and then we'll set it as the binding context. So we'll say binding context equals, and we're just going to have a new main view model. Beautiful. President, not sure you can't type either? Oh, good. I'm pleased I'm not the only one. All right. So hopefully what we have now is we've actually got ourselves some data to work with. Okay. So now let's create ourselves some cells. So I'm going to run this up. Let's see if I can do this at runtime. The idea here is what I want to do is just create myself. Let's look at our orange box here. So the basic layout here, get rid of that, that we're going to want is we're going to have an absolute layout. We're going to have a grid. Now I'm going to not put this in as a list view or as a collection view. The reason for that is because just for this experiment, I want to be able to make sure that I can find the position of things. So I won't call it cheating. Like, we're not going to have hundreds of elements inside of here. So I'm just going to create myself a bindable stack layout. Okay. First of all, let's give ourselves a background color. So we'll say a static resource, page background color. Let's get rid of this. We want to make this, get rid of that. We'll make it all. I suppose if we want to be explicit, I think this is going to be an all. And this will be 0, 0 to 1, 1. Cool. All right, so we got our background there. Beautiful. Okay. This is going to be the main part of our screen. So inside of this, what we're going to want is we're going to have a scroll view inside of here, because we might have more than what can fit on the screen. So I have a scroll view, throw a stack layout inside of here, and our stack layout is going to be a bindable stack layout. Okay, so I think we say bindable layout dot item source is going to be our locations. That's what we called it. Okay, so there's our 4 entries up the top there. That's nice. All All right, so there's our stack layout. And now I want to create an item template inside of here. All right, so we'll say our binding layout dot item template. It's a data template. I think that's right. And then inside of here, what I want is I basically want to have what a cell's gonna look like essentially, and that's probably gonna be a grid realistically, because if we have a look at what we're trying to do, thank you, data template, beautiful. Let's have a look at a cell. A cell is basically going to be a grid at the moment. So let's make it 3 columns. And then we'll make this a stack layout inside of there. So is there a way to use design time data for live XAML? Yeah, I think you can do it the same way as you... I think now we have... let's have a look. Xamarin.Forms. That's a good point. It'll be the same way as this, actually. So that's probably a little bit earlier. Refactor. I don't know if it'll be the same way as this. It'll be adding in this is how James did it now. See if I can find a link to it. Xamarin.Forms design time data. I think it'll be the same way as this, right? So you have this this design time data, this D attribute, and then you should be able to say this is the source for design time, and this is the source for runtime. So I think that's how you do it. I don't actually do it a lot, to tell you the truth. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's how you would achieve it. All right, let's throw a grid in here. It's going to have a background color. Let's go static resource. Yeah, I've never had much luck with the XAML previewers. It's probably better now. It couldn't be worse. In a separate file. I know in Gorilla Player, what you can do is you can create a JSON file, and then you can say just link it to the JSON file, which is actually a pretty cool way of doing it. All right, so what do we got here? We've got ourselves a grid. Let's go ahead and put in some column definitions. We have 3 columns. The first column is going to have a width. We'll make that auto. We'll have so present not sure. Yeah, you use Gorilla Player and that JSON file. Yeah, it's a pretty cool way of doing it. Keep on meaning to write something which would be an interesting project. I'm not sure if there is something that exists already, but to be able to take a JSON file and to create just a really simple page out of that, you know, just like an edit page, that'd be pretty cool. Because sometimes you just want to spin up a really quick page. You got some JSON, you're like, hey, I want to show this. You know, that'd be cool. So we're gonna have another column here. Yeah, it doesn't pollute your XAML when you use the JSON file. Yeah. So we're going to say something like that, right? We're going to have 3 columns. Auto, star, and auto. Beautiful. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put some things in here. So the first column that we're going to have an image. I don't have an image at the moment, so let's just throw in a box view of orange. Orange seems to be popular. We'll make it 50 by 50. Margin 10. That's where our little sun or our moon's going to go. Next, we want to have, in our design, we've got the name of the person and their location. So that's probably a stack layout, isn't it? So grid column of 1. I'm going to make that vertically centered. We're going to have a label in there. And we should be able to get our bindings going already, right? Would probably work. And we'll, for the moment, we'll create some fonts a little bit later on. Let's set our text color. Actually, let's just see if it's working first. Margin. All right, cool. Kim, Frank, Helen, James. Beautiful. Okay, what do we want? We want to have our font color, text color, white. It's a little bit hard working in a small IDE window here. I've got this ultra wide over here, which is where I normally work. All right, so we got our text. Let's say the font size. We'll just make this large for the moment. Whoa, too large. Right. And we're going to have another label underneath that. Going to be much smaller. And that's going to have the location. President not sure. You can see it without zooming in. I see. So because I've got super big fonts. I wish I could collapse down this gutter a little bit here. There's lots of wasted space. Anyway, doesn't matter. So I've got a location. Technically speaking, if we have a look at our design here, it's got a little image there. So probably that's going to be let's just do this. I'll add it in later on. Okay, so we got make that 12. Cool. I'm going to give this a margin. Let's see if this will work. Margin of 0, -5, because there's too much space in between it. Here we are. Bring them closer together. It's one of my favorite things, actually. Negative margins. So basically reducing that size in between there. So how you use such big fonts, never really done consistently on other streams. Yeah, the reason why is, I suppose, is because I got used to it when teaching Xamarin University classes. And so I'm used to having really big fonts. How about a spacing equals 0 and yeah, that's a good call, isn't it? Stack layout. Yeah, let's spacing is 0. Now they're all together. Of course, what that means is it means we're going to need to have ourselves a little divider line, aren't we? Because I'm not using I'm not using a collection view or a list view here, so I'm going to create my own divider line in a second. But let's first of all throw in another label, and that's going to be the time. Of course, I can't remember what I called it. Current time. That's a surprisingly good name. Yep. Okay, so that's going to go in row 0. It's going to go in column 2. It's going to be vertical centered. Horizontally, it's probably, let's have a look. Let's say our font size, we'll make that one large. We'll make it white. I could get rid of these windows down here. That would help. Font, text color. I always say font color. Text color of white. Beautiful. Add a little bit of margin. Margin equals 0 to the left, 0 to the top, 20 to the right, 0 to the bottom. Just bring it in a little bit. Beautiful. All right. There's our basic cell. Actually, we're going to add a line at the bottom, aren't we? So let's go a box view. It's going to be in grid column 0, which technically I don't need to specify, but it's going to say whole span of 1, 2, 3 columns. It's going to have a background color of, let's just make it white for the moment. It's going to have a height request of 1, and it's going to, what else do we need it to do? See what we get there. It's probably be a, oh no, we need a vertical options. We want it to be down the center, down the bottom. So end. Put some divider lines. And we should find a cooler color for that, I think. I'm being a little inconsistent. My apologies with colors. Anyway, we'll fix that later on. Could probably be the page background color. That might add just enough. And so yeah, it's very subtle, but it's there. All right, so we got that. If we had enough rows, because we're in a stack layout, we should be good. All right, now let's talk about how we're going to overlay and drop down that information. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move this into a control. Okay, so I'll stop this. So I'll add a folder. Call this our, we'll create ourselves a content view, and we'll call it something imaginative like, I don't know, what should we call it? Time cell? Stuff inside of here. So basically what's going on in this grid here, the data template, to here. Something like that. That'll work. And then we'll go and we'll reference it from our page. So we're going to have to add a using in here. Bullet controls. Go. God. You know, I played around yesterday a lot with moving things around in project structures. It's super annoying. It's just... Zone controls, and now I should just be able to say, hey, my data template is just controls time zone cell. And I think that will work, right? Let's just try spinning it up again. Cool. So we still got our basic layout. Beautiful. All right. So what I'm going to spend the rest of this time is actually doing the bit that I wanted to focus on, which is getting some information to drop down underneath here. So the way this is going to work, how I hope it's going to work, is we're going to have this absolute layout. We've got this grid that we have there. I'm going to have another absolute layout, which is going to cover the entire screen. Right, and that's going to be our faded background. So if I say absolute layout, because one of the nice things about absolute layouts is that we can, you can have multiple children inside of them. We're going to give this a name. It's going to be our faded background. We're going to want to make this occupy the full screen. So we'll have our layout bounds of 0011. We will give this a background color. We just want this to be not quite black. So we'll make it, I don't know, we'll pick an alpha value, like a transparency, something like that. Give it to us. 0011. What's going on there? One background. Background color of that is 100. We need layout flags on this bad boy. To all. There we go. All right. So now we have this this background that we're going to fade in, and it's going to hide everything. What we're also going to want inside of this absolute layout is we're going to want to have a fake cell. Essentially, we want this area that's going to overlay to make it look like the cell from behind has come into the front. Right. So we're going to have this whole. This is how I'm kind of imagining it. So this is sort of the overlaid bit, right? So if we have a look at how this would pan out, the basic idea is we're going to have this, and we're just going to sort of smack that straight over the top of this, like that, right? And then pop these sections down. So we'll effectively have like a container view here that has all these elements. So it'll have a cell, and then it's going to have these bits, but these bits are going to animate down. Okay, and for anyone who's joining, what we're trying to do, find this is what we're trying to do. So basically that cell is going to be the popover cell. Right, wish us luck. Okay, cool. So let's put I'm going to do it inside of a grid. Grids work nicely. Big fan of grids. Give it a name because we're going to want to do all this stuff in code. So what should we call it? Should we call it a pop-up, a pop-down? Drop-down? Sure, why not? We'll have this called a drop-down container. we're going to want to, with our drop-down container, it's going to have, if you think about it, in terms of columns and rows, we're going to have a row for our fake cell. And these are probably all going to be autos to begin with. Let's see what happens. We're going to have a row which is going to have our first set of drop downs. Auto for the moment. We're going to have a row which is going to have our second bit as well. And we're actually going to have 2 columns. Screen a little bit here. All righty. So we're going to have a column definition, a height, no, a width of 50%. So it's going to be a star. So we've got 2 columns. It's weird that IntelliSense complains about that. That's fine. All right, cool. So now in row 0, we're going to have a fake cell. So I would say controls time cell. Dot. Column span is 2. We've got our cell there. Now, in terms of the width of this, we're going to have to specify. So we'll have to say whether we'll set this. It's an interesting question. We'll set it in code. The thing I'm worried about is what happens when it rotates. Probably not a big issue. Let's just leave this for the moment. So we have a time cell in there. The second thing that we have is we're going to have our first button. So this is going to have background color of this is going to be in grid row 1 column 0. Because what it's going to have inside of it is going to have a label that says delete. All right. Okay, so our grids at the moment are getting all of this spacing. This is something that I would normally do, right? So, like so here we'd want to say like column spacing or row spacing is 0. That would get rid of the spacing in between there. Hello from Russia, Clean Swift. Welcome. We're just trying to do this UI. We're going to make this funky little UI which drops down like that. Coding it up from first principles, just trying to not use any custom renderers or anything like that in Xamarin.Forms. Let's just do it old school. All right, so you can set the row spacing and the column spacing everywhere. Normally when I have grids, I just don't have any spacing at all. So what you can do, and we did this in the last challenge, is you can actually just set an implicit style. I think I've got it in here. Right, so a style like this, take it back over and show you. If I put this in my app XAML and say, you know what, here's an implicit style, which is basically saying any grid is going to have a row spacing of 0 and a column spacing of 0. So the idea of that then is that I don't have to keep specifying that everywhere. Just do it once. Okay, so we're going to have a delete button. I'll tidy all this up later on. Because I want to kind of just prove it works first of all. Then we can work on it. It's color of white. I think we probably want to have a height request. Let's specify some explicit height requests. Let's make it like 60. All right. And this is going to be, as a name, this is going to be our delete button. And then we're going to have another one. Which is going to be our edit button. It's going to have the word edit in it, and it's going to go into column 1. Cool. And it's going to have a different drop-down color. So we'll say drop-down color 2. So there we are. We got that basic idea. And then we're going to have another thing down underneath that, which is going to be our information text. I don't know if it's probably wrong using that as a button there. In fact, I might rename those. These are really delete drop down, edit drop down, and this is our info drop down. This is going to go into row 0, column 2, and it's going to go col span across both of them. So column span of 2, and this is where it's going to say the time zone. Clean Swift says, can you use something like Interface Builder if in iOS development to build a UI in Xamarin.Forms? So I think the question is there a drag and drop editor? No, not for Xamarin.Forms UIs. No. If you're doing a Xamarin iOS application in Xamarin, so not Xamarin.Forms, then you can just use storyboards, so they're exactly the same, but not for Xamarin.Forms. Okay, that time zone's appearing in the wrong spot. It should be in column 0. It should be in row 2. There we go. So that's kind of like it's pretty gross there, but that's the cell. That's the cell that we're going to make appear. Right. Just sort of thinking about how we're going to make this work now. It's our drop-down container. In terms of the width for this one, we'll sort that out. At runtime. I think we'll set that at runtime, basically. Yeah. Set that at runtime. We'll position it at the right place. Okay. So kind of what we want to do here then is we want to say, well, let's get this background. Let's give it an opacity of 0. Okay. We'll even make it not visible. Because one thing I've noticed about if something has a 0 opacity in iOS, it'll allow you to, like, touches will go through it, but that doesn't work in Android, which is kind of weird. So we'll say is visible of false there as well. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll come back up here and we'll say, okay, well, we've got our time cell here. Let's add a gesture recognizer to that. So we'll say controls. I might stop this running because we're going to add some methods in here. It might get upset at us. So we'll say controls time cell dot gesture recognizers. And we'll have a tap gesture recognizer on this one. I'm just going to throw some methods in here. So I can rename this here. Do that. Tapo. Let's go with that one. And what we want to do is we want to say when somebody taps on that, we want it to then animate in, fade out. So let's rename this. Okay. So the idea is, I think we'll basically just say, okay, well, let's, what did we say? Our fade background, all right? We're going to start that off with a 0 opacity. We're going to make it visible. Look, I'm not in XAML anymore. You're not in XAML anymore, Kim. It's fade in the overlay. And then what we'll do is we'll say fade background, because at the moment it's invisible. Is visible. It's set to true. We will then go and animate it in, right? So we should be able to say something like fade background dot fade to an opacity of 1 over a certain amount of time. So I'm going to create myself a little variable here. Motion speed. Let's start it off as 300 milliseconds. What else have we got? Easing. For this, it probably doesn't matter, actually. Throwing on here. What's a uint? Okay, let's make it a uint. Right, cool. So I reckon that's going to fade it in. And then what we'll do is we'll add something. So if we just click on the background, it will fade it back out again. Add a gesture recognizer to this absolute layout. Yeah, it'll probably work. Need to learn the basics of animation. We're just about to get into animation. When I tap gesture recognizer. Yeah. Give it to us. This is why UI stuff is so painful. It's really slow. It really takes a long time to do. Okay, photo out the overlay. So what we're going to do is we're going to fade that background back to 0. We probably don't have to set the opacity here. Because what are we doing? We're essentially fading from 1 back to 0. But we do want to make it invisible. That line there isn't necessary. Let's see what happens. What I'm imagining we're going to have is we tap on a cell, yep, and we fade in that overlay. And when we tap on the back of the cell, feels like it. Okay. So here's an important animation thing. So you notice that it fades in nicely, but when we tap on it to fade out, it just disappears, right? It's like nothing happens. The reason why is because these people here are awaitable. So if you want to have something complete before you do the next thing, you have to await it. So in other words, I don't want this background to go invisible until it is faded to 0. So I want to await this. Okay, which means this has to be an async void. And that's basically going to say, complete that animation. And then is visible is false after that. Clean Swift says or asks, do you like functional programming and reactive programming? Do I practice it? No, I don't. It's just something I haven't really got around to tell you the truth. So yeah, I haven't. I have no experience in it basically. It feels like one of those things I need to spend some time doing, but it also feels like it's going to take me a long time to do it. Let's try that. Let's see if that fixed their problem. Sounds like spy music in the background. All right, cool. So now it's fading in and out. Beautiful. So now the trick is, what we want to do is we want to get this. Oh, hang on. Sorry. I'm looking at my other screen. You guys can't see my other screen. So I've got a cell here. When I tap on that, it's appearing. So Clean Swift says, am I practicing my skills or you're learning something else? I'm kind of practicing. I'm sort of learning about stuff as I go, as always, or teaching. Yeah, I kind of, so just to give you a bit of background, Clean Swift, I was an instructor at Xamarin University, and so I got a fairly good idea what's happening on with Xamarin.Forms. But one of the things I find people do struggle with is, yeah, no problems about your English. Your English is great. One of the things I find people struggle with is some of the animation, some of the layout concepts. And I just really like layout, to tell you the truth. And so every Friday I try and pick a design from Dribble, like this layout, and then spend some time reproducing it, right? And so I do that over on my blog, like reproducing this layout, for example. So that's the idea. I'm kind of just like practicing and experimenting with different layout techniques. But I'm sort of learning as well, because the thing with UI is that it's all kind of smoke and mirrors mostly. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of find different ways of faking stuff out to get what you're after. The problem with doing it on stream is that it's a little bit finicky. Why, Bad Dragon? Thank you for the follow. Welcome. Appreciate it. Saw your challenge on the blog and it looked pretty interesting. Yeah, so Dribble, what Dribble is, if you haven't looked at Dribble, Dribble's really cool. I use Dribble as a place to... You didn't get a jingle? Really? That's terrible. Well, I owe you a jingle. Let me see where I'm going to get that from. So normally when somebody does a follow, there's a jingle. Here it is.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
I think we just got a raid from Clancy. Hey Clancy, how was your stream? Hey. Welcome people. Did some crazy stuff in Shell. Fantastic. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Clancy, Clancy is part of the Live Coders team, but Clancy's a long time, I don't know, what are you, a Xamarin engineer? I don't know exactly what you do. Clancy makes Xamarin work, basically. And so he's streaming, creating crazy things. So you can see him. What are you doing? You're creating a music player in Xamarin. You're a PM architect. So that's like I'm assuming that a PM architect is like a project or a program manager who actually knows how to code. But then again, we got like David Orton now as well, who's also a fantastic developer. President Not Sure, you watch a ton of Clancy streams. So do I, actually. He's really entertaining. He does really cool stuff. So for anyone joining from Clancy's stream, let's quickly just tell you what we're trying to do here. We're basically doing what I call a UI challenge. It's something I spend my Friday mornings doing, basically trying to reproduce stuff in Xamarin.Forms. Normally just using layouts and trying not to get too crazy into things like custom renderers. So what we're doing here is we're basically going to reproduce this UI, and you know, certainly the elements here of where it pops down. So that's the idea. And at the moment, we don't have much going. Let me show you what we do have going. So we've just got a very basic layout here. When we tap on a cell, we overlay, we fade in a background, and then we fade it out. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and we're going to get a cell that overlays exactly where the other one was, and then drop down the elements out of there. So drop down these deletes and edits and things like that. All right, cool. So, you know, any questions, any jokes, let me know. Don't feel shy. You're all welcome here. It's a safe space, as they say. All right, cool. Now, what we want to do is we now want to, when the user has tapped on one of the cells, we're going to want to go and position the overlay in the right place. Okay, so that's our next challenge that we have in here. Okay, so, and actually what we also want to do is we want to set the binding context as well for that fake cell. So remember we had a fake cell that was in here. Do we have a fake cell? Yeah, here it is here. We'll just call this fake cell because I don't think a Xamarin.Forms view can have two parents. So I can't just move it. So what I can do is I can work out which cell was tapped. So that's going to come in my sender, right? So I can say, get the cell that was tapped. So that's going to be, let's say, my element here. And this is off the time cell. So I'm going to just be brave and I'm just say, hey, let's make this, pass this across. Okay. And then I'm just going to get the binding context of that cell and assign it to the binding context of my fake cell, so that it's just going to get the data essentially from there, if that kind of makes sense. So I can say the binding context of, oops, I'm going to have a fake cell. Maybe I need to save that first of all. Yeah, so we'll say the binding context of that is equal to our element binding context. Okay. And we'll go ahead and we'll position it, right? So what we need to do is we need to find out the position that we're going to place it at. So I'm going to create myself a variable here. So this is where our pop-up container position is going to be. It's going to be a rect. So we'll say this is a new rectangle. All right, so where do we want to position this, right? We want to basically position it at 0, x. We want it to be at our element top. We want it to be element top bounds top, maybe. We want it to be as wide as the screen. And we want it to be, so this is the pop-up container that's going to exist. So it's going to be basically the height of the fake cell. I'll just move these down a few lines here. That's going to be the fake cell height plus our first row and our second row out of there. So we had a, what do we call them? Delete drop down and info drop down. Plus our info drop down dot height. All right, so that's going to define our rect. Now what I want to do is I want to set the position of that container to be the same place. So you can set an attach property by basically going and say absolute layout dot set layout bounds to that rectangle for that control. So in our case, we want it to be our pop-up. No, it wasn't called pop-up. What was it called? Drop-down container. And I'm going to rename that. Okay. So that's hopefully going to position it at the right point. Let's see if that's true. As with all UI stuff, it's all guessing the right values. Okay, cool. Right. So, what you can see now is when I click on this cell, it's actually getting that overlay and positioning it exactly at the same point. Beautiful. Okay, so now what I want to do is I actually want to start adjusting these elements, right? And actually make them animate down instead of just sort of splatting on top of the screen. And if I go to my XAML here, we can start playing around with this actually. Let's do this. If I go to my main page XAML, I should be able to do this. I should be able to say, okay, so let's say my delete dropdown, if I say, let's adjust its rotation X to be 45. Okay, you can see that that's rotated there, right? So that's cool, but I actually want that to be at the top. So I'm going to set its anchor to 0. So we talked about the anchor before. So the anchor Y is going to equal 0. And we're going to start it off. So that means it's going to be able to do that. It's going to be able to swing down effectively. So let's see what happens here. We'll get rid of the rotation here. We'll do it in code. But I do want to set the anchor Y to 0 of this element, and this element, because otherwise they're going to rotate from the wrong point. All right. I'm going to start them off hidden. Oh, Visual Studio, really? Come on, Visual Studio. Right, I've got some effects for just such an occurrence. Hello, Visual Studio? Are you there? No, it's not there. It turns out that it just restarted itself. Sweet Lord. Wow. It restarted itself and took me back to the same place. I didn't know Visual Studio did that. Okay, we've got our anchor Ys in there. Wow, that was creepy. The voice goes with the music. Maybe we should up-tempo the music a little. Or maybe I should just talk like this the whole time. Right, what am I doing? Focus, Kim, focus. Get the cell that was tapped. Beautiful. Position the overlay. Okay. Set the layout bounds. Right. So that's basically positioning everything for us. Now, where we want to start this though, is we want to, we need to make sure that we have that fade in. We also need to make sure that all of those other things are not visible to start with, right? So hide the drop downs initially. Right, so I might want to do this a little bit higher in my code, but so I'm going to have what do we call them? Delete drop down dot is visible. It's false. We're going to have our edit drop down is false. And you know, one way you could do this is you could do it, you know, with like a state machine or something like that. And that may be very well the way I go about this later on. At the moment, I'm just, you know, what I like to do with UI stuff is just prove it's going to work and then think about how it's actually used and then refactor it later on. So if you're looking at this thinking, oh, that code's horrible, you're probably right. It'll get better. Don't worry. I'm a big fan of do the simplest thing possible and then refactor. Okay. So we'll hide the drop downs. And then what we want to do is we want to make sure that they're rotated to the right point. Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll just create a method to do a drop down or to open a drop down. All right. And the idea here was it would basically do that, that animation. Okay. So let's create a method. We'll just call this like open drop down to begin with. And maybe it'll take a view, right? Because all the animations are done in a view class inside of Xamarin.Forms, which is great because it means that, you know, they work on everything, all the different visual things that we have. And so we can, in here, what we want to do is we want to say, let's make the pop down visible, the view. is visible. We'll tidy this up in a second. So that's true. We're going to say, let's rotate it down, right? So we want to go rotate our X value to 0, right? Because we're going to start it at -90 and we're going to spin it back around. We'll get our animation speed. We set that up earlier on. Do we want it easing? Probably not. So we'll make this visible. Let's do this. We'll say rotation X. We'll set that to -90 to start with. And we actually want to wait for this to finish, you know. So we'll make this an async method, because what we want to do is we want to wait. If you have a look at what this does, it waits for each one to finish, wait, and then the next one, and then the next one. So I'm going to await this bad boy. So hopefully what I can do now, they're all hidden. I could then say await drop down. Or wait. Okay, a good old async void. Everyone's favorite thing, async void. Yeesh. So let's open the drop down for our delete. Let's open our drop down. After that's finished, so we're awaiting. After that's finished, we'll do our edit drop down. And then after that's finished, let's do our info panel. And what we should also have is we should have a close drop down. So it's pretty much going to be the same thing, right? Except it's going to go the other way. So we're going to say, let's rotate this to, I'm thinking -90. I might have this the wrong way around. We'll find out in a second. We're assuming that it's already open. So let's see what happens here. So -90. And then once it goes to -90, we're going to make it invisible, because otherwise it'll probably look like a line. And maybe what we can do now is we can say, okay, well, once we tap the background, we can fade that to 0. Before we do that, close the pop downs, or the drop downs. I want to call them pop downs. I don't know why. So I could say, so the order that these go is the opposite order, right? So we close the information, then we close the edit, and then we close that. This is my favorite thing. If you hold down Alt, you can type at multiple places. All right. I think that might kind of work. Let's find out. Hey, look at that. All right, cool. So as we tap on one of those, they drop down. And when we tap off, they close back up in the right order, and they wait for each one to finish. That's pretty cool. I think if we have a look at this, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's amazing what you can do with just the inbuilt animations. So we're kind of there, right? We need to fine tune it. Like, these also fade in as they do it as well. It gives it that, because the problem with this is they maintain the same color as they go through. But, you know, when something's further back, normally, like in a 3D world, it's in shadow, right? So what we might do is we might also adjust the opacity of it as well. So when we open the drop down, let's adjust the opacity, but we want to do it at the same time we're doing the rotation. So we could say, fade it to 1 over the same duration, right? Because this is not awaited, it will happen at the same time as this one, right? Because it's not going to wait for this one. So that's going to happen both at the same time. And so we can do the same thing here. We can fade, when we close the drop down, we can start it fading back to 0. Now also we want to say probably view dot opacity equals 0. Let's do that. Okay. Now this one here is complaining because it's saying, hey, you're not doing this. Here's an interesting refactor. Use a discard, because then it gets the result of the task. So it gets rid of that exception, that warning. So now what, hopefully it'll be a small difference, but the idea is that it will just fade in a little bit as it comes in. Very subtle difference, but kind of important, I think. All right, cool. Right, so that's kind of like proving our concept a little bit there. Where should we focus next? Shall we focus on making it spin? Let's try that. Let's try when. Yeah, it does make a difference for sure. There might even be some easing we want on there as well. So the other cool thing you can do is you can do easings. So let's add an easing to it and see if it looks good or looks terrible. So we won't add an easing to our fade. We'll add it to the rotation. So we'll say an easing of I don't think they have any easing in theirs, but we probably want to do like spring out, which I think will make it overshoot a little bit and then come back. Let's find out. Easings are really cool. Let's have a look while this is building. I don't think they have an easing. That one has an easing. Actually, no, you can sort of see it springing back underneath them. Nah, it doesn't work. Let's kill that easing. All right. Okay, what's the time? It's 12 p.m. my time. Maybe what I'll do just before we finish up, let's get it to spin kind of nicely, right? Because that's kind of a slightly different animation technique. We'll make it spin, and then I might have to sign off. I've actually got some work to do, and then we can finish it off on another stream. How about that? All right, cool. Right, so let's have a look at what we need to achieve. We need to, let's say they hit the I wish I could slow down this. When they hit the delete button, it closes the bottom panel and then it flips it around. And in this case, what does it do with this top section? flips that around, and then it's got a different section up the top. So I'm President, not sure. You've got an appointment with bedtime. Awesome. Well, let me know before you sign off. If you're signing off now, or otherwise, it shouldn't take us too long to do this. But as always, thank you for being here, and thanks everyone else for being here. All right, cool. Let's knuckle down. Let's get this done. We want to add a click to our delete dropdown. So, easiest way to do that is, of course, with our gesture recognizers. So, Lachlan. Hey, Lachlan. I'm sticking around for the spin. Fantastic. You only just got here, Lachlan. You might have seen, if you just joined, I'm basically doing this. So I've got the drop downs working. Now I'm about to do the spin. All right, let's add a, let's, this music's driving me bananas. Hang on a second. Ninja music. All right. Gesture recognizer. So chat gesture recognizer tapped. I've been programming for a couple of hours, Lachlan, so I'm a bit tired. YB Dragon, why Bad Dragon, which is a great name, by the way. I'll definitely be here for the next stream. Only been doing Xamarin development for about a year, and animating UI has always been a trouble spot for you. Yeah, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, well, we should be able to do this pretty well, I reckon. All right, so let's put that in here. So the idea is when we tap on the delete, we want it to close the information panel and then spin it. Let's see what happens when we try and do this. So there's that delete. So given that we now have a close, I can do this, right? I can say like async void. Say, let's go and close the info panel, because remember that's going to be open. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to spin it. So if we think about how we're going to spin it, we're not going to use the x-axis. We're going to use the y-axis, and we're going to, and the trick here is that we spin it halfway, and then we swap it out with something that's the back side of it, if you like, and then we flip that back in. That's the idea. So let's create ourselves like a method called like flip that thing. And what we want to do is we want to flip the whole container, right? So we'll flip the, what do we call it? Container, what do we call it? Oops, the whole, the drop down container. There we are. So first of all, what we'll do is we'll just get the flip working, and then we'll do some refinements of it. Okay. So the idea then is we basically just, this wants to be async. So we want this to wait. Whoops. Say, get, just make this a view because we want it to work with anything. We'll say await view dot rotate y right? And we want to rotate it to -90. So we're going to rotate it so that it's edge on, first of all. We'll go with our animation speed. Why is that not doing? Oh, right. We don't want that. We want rotation. Rotate Y2. There we go. That's what we're after. Now this one has some springing in it, right? So it's going to start springing, but we don't want it to spring at the end because otherwise it's going to look weird when it swaps. So we'll say the easing is spring in. Okay, cool. And once that's done, this is where we're going to swap the contents, and then we'll rotate it. We'll continue rotating it. So for the moment, what I'll do is I'll just go await view.rotate Y2, just so we can see if it's going to work. Now that'll probably ought to be spring out. Hello, James Montemagno. Got a little pupper in there. Welcome. I'm destroying animations. I'm making a mockery of animations here. But thanks for joining us. All right. So we're swinging out to -90, right? Now the challenge is if we move it back to 0, what it's going to do is it's going to it's going to flip around sideways and then it's going to flip back that way. So that's not what we're after. We're after it to flip halfway and then flip around, right? So we'll basically just do this. Let me just do it. So I want to say set its rotation Y. James Montemagno, thank you for the follow, sir. My animations. Look, you didn't hear my jingle. Have you heard my jingle before, James? It didn't play. Apparently it's not playing on the stream. Here, have a listen to this. Glenn Stevens wrote this for me.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Philpotts, and oh how amazing you'll be.
What do you think? Very nice. Very nice. All right. Have you been streaming today, James? I know you normally stream for my morning tomorrow. It's how I wake up on a Saturday morning. Tomorrow I'll be streaming as always. Fantastic. I actually need to talk to you. I now have a switch, James. So I need to, because you're really into switches, right? I need to find some good game recommendations. All right. So this is what we're doing here. We're flipping it to -90, right? Then we're actually flipping it all the way around so that it then flips back in. It looks like it's coming in from the other side. It's kind of hard to visualize. Let me just run it and we'll see if it works. So we close the drop down and then we do the flip. All right, let's see what happens. James wants to make no. 7 p.m. The partner's out at happy hour, so waiting for her to come home to make dinner for us. You could surprise your partner by having dinner ready. Just saying. And Nintendo Dispatch. That's the one. That's the one. I've got to listen to it. All right, cool. Let's have a look at what happens. Let's tap on this. Boop, boop, boop. 3 menus pop down. Beautiful. I'm hoping that when I hit the delete, spin around. I know you're a sweetheart, James. All right, so there we go. That's our when we hit the delete button now, we're doing our horizontal flip. That's crazy talk. Beautiful. So now what we need to do is kind of like we have these 2 steps of rotation. We flip it to go around and then straight on, and then we change the content so that something else comes back in from the other side. That's the idea. Okay. Cool. Actually, here's a really important thing, by the way. It seems that it's actually worked. That anchor point, I think, is pretty important. Let me just try this. Let me have a look. And this is really important for getting your animations right. So if I got this drop-down container here, okay, so that's the thing that contains all of this, and that's the thing that we're spinning, right? If I said it's anchor X, anchor Y, because it defaults, I think, to 0.5.5, right? But if I said its anchor X was 0, right? Remember we set the anchor X, the anchor Y for the ones that drop down. If I set the anchor Y X to 0 on this, what it would do, well, let's have a look. You see, oh, sorry, hit my microphone there. You see that didn't work at all, right? Because what it's doing is it's now doing the rotation based on the X value of 0. So it's actually, Y is 0.5. So it's actually animating around this point here, right? And so it's really important that you work out where you want to do rotations from. And in our case, we actually want it to be smack bang in the middle. So it just happens to be the right value. So, because I think that's the default value it starts off with is 0.5. But you see what happens here. If I put that as 0.5, it will now spin around the middle point. And if I set that to be 1, it would spin around the other side. Again, it would look rubbish. so there you go. That's the anchor point. That's super important. All right. Now, what we want to do is, our next thing is we want it to transition the content. So once it closes, spins halfway, transition the content, spin it back around. I'm going to do this just by having different elements that I show and hide. Right? What I could have and what I probably would do in a real situation is I might have different content views which I display. But I'm short on time in today's stream. So we'll just get the basics working and then we'll refine it in a future stream. So where I have this fake cell, right? This is what I want to change with a message. So when this spins, oh, hang on. See if I can capture it here. Oops, hang on a second. Look at what it looks like. Okay, oh, I missed it. All right, it says, are you sure you want to delete it? So the anchor is where the hinge is. Exactly, it's the point around which it rotates. Yep. And so, depending on what you want to do, right? So some entrance animations, there's some really nice entrance animations where things sort of fold in from the side. In that case, you'd want your anchor X to be like 0 or 1. In our case, we're spinning it on its middle point. So therefore 0.5 works really nicely. And it's, it's super amazing what you can get done with the animations that's just built into Xamarin. So this is going to be our confirm message. And all I'm going to do here is this is going to have a background color. Just quickly do this background color of static resource, cell background color. And just throw a label smack bang in the middle. Sure. font. What do I always say? Font color. Text color is going to be white. The vertical options is going to be centered. The horizontal option is going to be centered. And this is going to start off invisible. All right, so this is called confirm message. So maybe what I want to do here is want to say when we spin to halfway point, let's do this. Let's say, so our current view, this is the, what we want to do is we want to have the front or the from view, which would be the child inside of there. This is going to work. Let's just do this for the moment. View from and to, and then we would say after it's rotated to 90. No falsy in C#. I don't know what that means. Let's just say from is visible equals false. So we rotate to 90 degrees. We hide what was there, which in our case is going to be our fake cell. Then we make our other one visible. 2 is visible. Is visible equals 0 won't work. Oh yeah, okay. This is what I did. Oh yeah, it's a Boolean. And then we'll make that visible. Let's try this. I'm going to put this in here as well. It is visible. It's true. From and to. So I'm flipping from the fake cell to the what did I call the other thing? Is visible. Yeah, false. Yeah, good call. And then confirm message. Is that a view? Should be a view. Let's see what happens. And this is where, yeah, I got that president not sure, I think, unless I missed it somewhere else. Not exactly what I had in mind, but it's not at all what I had in mind, actually. It's so broken. All right, let's do this. I might have to be explicit. So first of all, this needs to go across 2 columns. So the column span of this is going to be 2, just like what we see up here. I think I'm going to have to have explicit sizes with this, I suspect. Let's see. It closes, flips, says, are you sure? And of course we want a yes and a no button there. But you see how it's moved it all up? It needs to be the same height as the fake cell. And also, it needs to not have the wrong value. Okay, so let's quickly fix that. What's the easiest way? Easiest way is for me to just specify a height, right? Of my fake cell. Is that cheating? It's not really cheating. let's have a look. Let's run this while I'm doing it so I can see the size of things. That's the nicest thing about having a live previewer is this sort of stuff where you're trying to adjust the various sizes of controls around the place, right? So I might say the height request of a cell is 80. Or I might say 120. Okay, and I can see how big it is on the screen. I can adjust it. That's lovely. I'm gonna make this 80 because it feels about right. And going to have our fake cell here. Height request of 80. And our confirm message is going to be the same height. Ooh, can I, James? That would be super cool. Let's have a look. Sure, turn on UWP edit continue. Where do I set that, James? Is there an options? Yeah, let's try it live. Because that would be another great reason to actually create a UWP client, because then you could build it and do your C# stuff. That would be awesome. Debugging general. Looks like it's on already. Right. All right, let's try it. This will be amazing. I'm so excited. Yeah, let's go and let's put a breakpoint here. Where's my screen gone? So we'll catch it as it gets halfway. And let's set its what am I doing here? Let's set its rotation not to 90 but to 270. This might not work actually. Yeah, because I'm not going to be able to see it. Let's do this. Let's set something up here. I think that worked, James. Oh shit. You've changed my life, James. Again. The problem with, yeah, of course, I don't have to do it there. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Let's do this. Let's do this and let's do that. And then what I'll do is, when you delete, I'll add some more code in to close the edit, and also close the delete. Yeah, how about that? And then we'll just keep it running and then see whether it does it next time. Oh, wait on. Did I screw up? Yeah, I screwed up. What's it called? Post drop down? Oh, that's a method. What am I doing, man? What am I doing? All right. So now I haven't stopped. I'm still running. Oh. I wonder if it's the awaits. Yeah, because awaits is so special, right? Okay, well, let's restart it. Let's do this. But short of that, I think you're right. I think it works. I've just been streaming for too long, so my brain isn't working. But let's do this. What about changing a value here? Right, so I could say, let's set a breakpoint here. And I could say, you know what? Playing with this, and I don't like the animation speed. So let's do this. So I'm going to say delete, and I'm going to say, no, let's go and change that animation speed to be 2 seconds. Keep running. Can't do that as well. Can't do fields. Really? It needs to be, not in this method, surely. Like, does it have to be in the method? Oh, it does. Right. All right, well, let's do this then. Let's come here. Let's make this a bounce in, a bounce out. So we decide, hey, you know what? We now want to bounce it. Yeah, I think that did. I think that bounced it. And we're going to change this to be So we're going to say, okay, well, let's set this to be 3,000. Hopefully I can do that. I can't change the field. Maybe you can. There we go. Beautiful. Hey, edit and continue. So yeah, small tweaks to the method. That's only going to work in it's only going to work in UWP apps though, isn't it? Yeah, just UWP. Still, that's really cool. That's awesome. I need to work out what I was doing. Fantastic. Anyways, it's all good. It's a reason. It's a reason maybe to generate a UWP client. I was actually just doing UWP because it was fast to deploy. Let's have a look at where we're at. I'm going to have to call it quits in a second. Oh, hang on. I added these additional ones. Okay, let's do this. This probably won't work. Let's say we come in here and we say, hey, actually, I don't want to delete that. I'll delete that. Restart. Let's see where are we at. You're in here, by the way, James. Okay, let's add a yes and a no button. And maybe I'll call it quits and we'll continue on a little bit later on. So I think the way I feel like I should be at the moment, just because I'm cheeky, I'm just going to create a yes and a no button here. Literally. Because I'm tired. I'm just going to do this. Request. I should actually just make it a button. I totally should make it a button. Like, what am I doing? Why am I not using a button at all? You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm just going to change those to buttons. It's silly that they're not buttons, isn't it? No, it's not that silly. Because I think it's going to have troubles with borders. All right. Get that for the moment. Alrighty. Just trying to think what we're doing here. What am I trying to do? Trying to flip that around. Yeah, I think I'll have different buttons. I think I need a state machine in this bad boy. What I'll do for the moment, I'm just going to basically what I want to do here is I want to make the from visible. I want to do the rotation. Then I'm going to set it to be invisible, but at this point here, I need to swap the buttons out as well. Right. So this is nasty. This is so nasty. I'll refactor this later on. Way too nasty. Do this. Move this code out of here. Refactor it once we write it correctly. So on our delete, we're going to say our cell is visible as true. We're going to rotate our container, whatever that was called, to -90. We're going to store it's at -90. We're then going to set our information cell, our question cell, confirm cell. Message. Visible. Actually, I wonder if I should, I reckon what I should be doing here, actually, if I think about this, is not having, time to start cooking, James. Have fun. Cook something delicious. And I'll probably see you tomorrow morning. A random time in Australia. I love it. I love it. Take care. Take care. All right. I'm just thinking, do I have a whole separate container? See, because what I could do is I could have a grid, which is my, hey, 50 bits from James Montemagno himself. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Take care. Enjoy that dinner. I'm thinking what I could do is actually just have the two different sides. That would be so much easier, right? So I could have a 50 kisses from James. Lovely. Oh, and some tier 1 subs. That's amazing, James. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So congratulations from time to get those emotes. Oh, totally. Nicholas, President Not Sure, Why Bad Dragon, Lachlan, Mr. Martin. Lovely. Send a big thanks to James. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you, sir. Fantastic. There's Lachlan. Now, I'm going slightly mad here. Whee! And who else we got? Mr. Martin. Fantastic. That was amazing. Thanks, James. All right. What am I doing here? I'm going a little bit mad. I'm too tired to code. That's my problem. Where am I here? My grid, this grid, and then this grid. Phew. All right. So I think maybe what I should do is just have a panel for one side and a panel for the other side, just two separate panels all together. Why no jingle? I don't know, but here's a jingle for you, Lachlan.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Philpotts, and oh how amazing you'll be.
I've got something not quite right with my mixer. But there's your jingle. Alrighty. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna have like one side and the other side, and then just change them. That just seems like an easier mechanism to me. So I'm basically gonna have the same sort of stuff. Have my fake cell, my confirm message. I'm just gonna copy this grid a second time. Goodness. And in this one, this is going to be just nicer, I think. So I'm still going to have these sections here. I'm going to get rid of this fake cell because now this one exists there. I don't have to hide it anymore. I think I'm going to break all of this, but anyway. And then it's going to have, instead of a delete drop down, it's going to have a yes. And then instead of an edit, going to have a no. And in this case, it doesn't have an info drop down, I don't think, at the moment anyway. Okay, so now what we are doing is we're pretty much saying this is going to be the front side. Let's just do this initially here. I'm pretty messy in my code here. Due for a refactor. This one is going to be called backside. backside. Cool. All right. Now we've probably broken everything here, right? Let's see what we have. This one needs a... So we come in here, we tap on a cell. Fade in our background. Yes. Discard, get rid of that warning. Beautiful. I just saw your message. Thanks, Glenn. All right. So we get our sender. We set our background. Yep, cool. We set our position. The drop-down container. In fact, what we can do here is we want to say... visible is false. Okay, we open the drop downs. We probably want to also say here, is the other one called front side. Visible is true. All right, open our drop down. Basically, yep, cool. Drop that down, we rotate that, we close it. Yep, that's all good. Background, we're going to close the drop downs. And we're going to fade that out. In our delete, we close our drop down. We pretty much now close our drop down. We then are going to make our let's have a look. We're going to say rotate that around. So our front side is visible. Rotate that to 90 and then we say front side, back side is visible. Cool. Side. Confirm message. Say. All right. Let's see what happens there. I feel like I've broken it all. I think it'll be better. Oh, okay. They've got the same names. Get rid of these. Yes. Delete drop down we need. Yes button we do not need. No button we don't need. Alright, where's our window? where elements exist, they pop in, they pop out. Beautiful. That didn't work at all. What's going on? Let's have a look. We've got our flip working. Sorry, our appearance there. We hit the delete. Let's go have a look and see what it's doing. Closing the drop down. Exactly. Are you sure you want to delete? I don't think you do. Let's have a look and see what is going on. Let's just go into the XAML here. Let's say backside is visible, is true. Backside. Visible is true. Is it? They're going to have true values. That's probably why they're not appearing. Let's try that. Start off as false. Start off as true. All right. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right. I said the backside visibility in the code behind. All right. But look, I think that's cool there. We've got that. We click outside, it closes back out. We're not doing anything with these buttons yet, but that's cool. I click on this one, it does a delete. Flips, it says, am I sure? And then if I say yes, it should remove the element. If I say no, it should probably just flip back around, right? I'm going to simplify this code later on. I feel this code is way too complex. The idea is there though. No, we're running. Bad names. All right. Let's just do this now. So what we want to do here is we want to flip this back around, right? We want to flip back to the front. And then we want to probably open the information panel. All right, so let's do that. So it's going to be pretty much the same as this, right? In fact, we'll bring this out. Yeah, really interested to see how I animate the removal of the item from the list. Me too. I think I'm going to use the same technique actually. Pretty much what we're doing in terms of going, when I click on an item to remove, I'm going to get those other elements and I'm going to translate them up and then remove it from the back. That's my theory. And I'm pretty sure it'll work. I don't think I'm going to get to it today though. I'm a little bit tired. Anyway, let's just flip this back around. So basically what I want to do is I want to get my container. Async void, async. Drop down container. Rotate that. Okay. It's going to be the same thing actually, isn't it? It's going to be rotated to 90. Why don't I do this? It's going to be the same code. Copy it. The only difference here is it's going to be the other way around, no? It's going to be let's just see if that works. Oops. I broke something. Ooh. Zoiks. That opens the wrong main page. That's hilarious. Let's see if that works. Beautiful. And it expands that back down as well. Delete. I haven't done the yes yet. So the yes bit is the next bit. That's the bit where we want to move everything up. It's the bit that YB Dragon's interested in. The no basically just takes us back and opens that panel again, because I suppose that's what you want to do. Okay. Should I try and delete the element? I think I'll leave that till next time. Is that bad, YB Dragon? Why bad Dragon? Because I'm pretty exhausted. And I think we've got a bit here now where I'd like to refactor some of this because it feels a little bit too complex. That the idea is good, the idea is working. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so next time let's do this. Let's make it actually look like the UI. So let's bring in some programming tides difficult. I actually just hit a bit of a wall just before. So now I'm knackered. I think it's an Australian term, by the way. Knackered means tired. So we'll make it look like this. We'll do that. I reckon we can do that. No problems. And we'll also perhaps get some of this time zone stuff working correctly as well. So I think I'm going to call it. Actually, what I will say as well is I'm going to push the code for this into GitHub. So I'm going to put it into this here. So if anyone wants to, play around with it, put in some pull requests or do anything, feel free to do so. And we can just basically build this app up. Alrighty. And I'll create some work items in there as well. Now let's have a look and see if there's, can't believe how much I got done. Yeah. I feel I should have got more done. But anyway, it doesn't matter. UI programming is like that, right? UI programming, it can take you days to just do one really small thing. let's have a look at who's streaming. Now, I think Glenn Stevens is streaming, but I think he is he's about to finish. Let's have a look. Lana Locks. What about Talk to Me Gooseman? Talk to Me Gooseman is it looks like he's doing some stuff on functions. Should we go and raid him? What do you think? Looks like he's doing it as your functions. Right, so join in the raid. I never know quite how to raid properly, but let's go and raid him. Say hello. And of course, everyone who joined in today, thank you very much. Really appreciate you being here and helping me out and catching my errors and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you. So take care. Make sure you hit the follow button on my for my Twitch stream so that you know when I'm streaming. But otherwise, it'll be sort of this Friday. Sorry, next Friday. God, I'm so tired. All right, everyone, take care, and oops, I'll see you next time. Bye for now.